It is known that comedy we can feel comes from pain and tragedy. The ones that make us laugh oftentimes have had traumatic experiences of their own that they pull from to give us moments of laughter. Over the years, some of these same people have ultimately left us with brief moments of laughter before their career reached its fullest potential. And when they're gone, it feels like we lost a friend or someone we knew. Here's a list of sitcom stars we lost too soon. Yvette Wilson. Stand-up comedian Yvette Wilson would quietly get her first big break on TV with In Living Color, which would ultimately land her a role on the ABC sitcom Thea. In 1995, Yvette, still not as known at the time, would manage to steal the scene in Friday with Chris Tucker. It was in the following year she would gain her most attention as she would play Andell Wilkerson in the sitcom Moesha. There she would play the owner of the neighborhood hangout, The Den. Wilson would continue the character when Moesha's spinoff The Parkers would premiere in 1999. Unfortunately, Wilkerson, who around the time of her death was battling kidney disease, would die in 2012 from cervical cancer. She was 48. Lamont Bentley. Young actor Lamont Bentley would become everyone's favorite friend when he appeared on Moesha from 1996 to 2001. The actor who would appear on a number of shows before becoming Hakeem Campbell is another actor who left us too soon. Hakeem would be highlighted as a good friend to Moesha, who would eventually become her boyfriend as the show progressed. Following Moesha, Bentley would continue his acting career by appearing in The Parkers, The Proud Family, and The Wash. Unfortunately, however, in 2005, Bentley would lose his life after being ejected from his car into traffic after crashing through a fence into an embankment. He was only 31 years old. Michelle Thomas. On the series Family Matters, Steve Urkel had to decide between the woman of his dreams versus the woman who would do anything for him. That woman would be played by actor Michelle Thomas. From 1993 to 1998, Thomas would star on Family Matters as Myra Monkhouse, Urkel's girlfriend and number one fan. In 1998, the actress would try her hand at more dramatic roles as she would land a part on The Young and the Restless. Months later, however, the vegetarian who never smoked or drank alcohol would have to have surgery to remove a lemon-sized tumor from her body, only to return back to the hospital to treat a cancerous growth that ruptured. In December of 1998, surrounded by her family and friends, Thomas would pass after her battle with cancer. She was 30. Gary Coleman. Ranked as one of the top 100 child actors of all time, Gary Coleman would help change television with his role on Diffrent Strokes as Arnold Jackson. The show would star Coleman as a witty inner-city kid who gets adopted by a wealthy man along with his brother. At the end of Diffrent Strokes in 1986, and after years after making his debut into films, Coleman would manage to work throughout entertainment by appearing in other TV shows like the series Waynehead, along with a few notable music videos. It was his life outside of show business, however, that would get the best of him. Coleman would fall on a series of financial mishaps, as it was noted that he sued his adoptive parents for $3.8 million. In 1993, he would go on to win $1.8 million over the matter. Years later, Coleman would find himself working as a security guard and would end up in another legal matter after a fan tried to get an autograph with him. The 4'8" actor's health would continuously be an issue as well in his later years. It is reported that Coleman had a series of kidney issues in which he would have 2 unsuccessful kidney transplants. In 2009, he would end up having heart surgery. The following year, Coleman was back in the hospital for a seizure, and in May of 2010, he would reportedly suffer another seizure, which would cause him to fall downstairs in his home, hitting his head. Almost days later, his condition worsened, and he would be placed on life support, in which he would eventually pass. He was 42 years old. Merlin Santana. Outside of Steve Harvey's classic Suits on the Steve Harvey Show, fans remembered actor Merlin Santana as Romeo, the known ladies' man of Booker T. Washington High School. He would entertain viewers for 6 years from 1996 to 2002. Before his role of Romeo, Santana got his early start on The Cosby Show as Stanley, Rudy's boyfriend. Months after the Steve Harvey Show would go off air, in November 2002, Santana would end up in a fatal shooting in Crenshaw, Los Angeles, after leaving a friend's home. According to reports, Santana was falsely accused of making a sexual advance towards a young girl, and her boyfriend would retaliate with shooting Santana. Up until his death at 26, Santana continued to work in TV and film. Bernie Mac. Following his breakout in The Kings of Comedy, Bernie Mac will introduce himself to America as everyone's favorite neighbor. The stand-up comedy giant would take his material on stage and every week would craft it into a weekly show from 2001 to 2006. In the course of his run, Mac was well on his way into becoming a go-to lead in comedy films, as he would feature in over 10 movies after landing The Bernie Mac Show on Fox. Now, before his own show, Mac was no stranger to sitcoms, as he would also get his early acting experience on Moesha as Uncle Bernie from 1996 to 1999. Towards the end of The Bernie Mac Show, fans of the series started to notice a much puffier Mac, as it was slowly revealed that the loved stand-up comedian was suffering from sarcoidosis, which causes inflammation in tissue. In most cases, sarcoidosis is reportedly known to attack the lungs. And in 2008, Mac would be admitted to the hospital in his hometown of Chicago. A week later, after failed treatment attempts, Mac would go into cardiac arrest and pass from complications with pneumonia. He passed 2 months before his 51st birthday at the age of 50. Thomas Ford. Well before Martin, California native Thomas McKell Ford was already on the path to make a name for himself. After roles in A Different World, Harlem Nights, it was in 1992 that Ford would get his biggest role as Tommy Schron in Martin. For 5 years, the actor would play best friend of Martin Lawrence's character Martin and played as the level-headed one of his crew. Following Martin, Ford continued to stay busy by making appearances on New York Undercover, The Jamie Foxx Show, and Who's Got Jokes. It was in 2016 that Ford would end up getting knee replacement surgery. Now, surprisingly to many, weeks later, his aneurysm would burst in his abdomen. The incident would become deadly as Ford would pass in October of 2016. He was 52. James Avery. James Avery to the world will always be known as Uncle Phil. For 6 seasons, Avery would play uncle to Will Smith in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. For many, Avery's performance was relatable and respected. As each episode, he would display tough love through his portrayal of Philip Banks. Following his time on The Fresh Prince, Avery would continue to be a working actor in both TV and film, like Dr. Dolittle 2, Soul Food, Hair Show, Star Trek, and more. In 2013, Avery would go to the hospital in November for heart surgery, and shockingly, on New Year's Eve, it was announced that Avery passed away due to complications from his previous surgery. Following his death, it was later revealed that he had ended up having a heart attack before the surgery. The respected actor was 68 years old and worked all the way up until his death. Shirley Hemphill. Only a handful of women in comedy have been able to use their stand-up skills as a way to open up doors. Shirley Hemphill was one of those women. The stand-up comedian out of North Carolina would catch the attention of Hollywood executives after building a name for herself in Los Angeles. In 1976, she would land the role of Shirley Wilson on ABC's What's Happening, in which her performance would then land her own short-lived series, Once in a Million. In 1985, Hemphill would make another return back to TV when it was announced that What's Happening was returning to TV as a sequel called What's Happening Now. The show would end in 1988 after 66 episodes. Hemphill would still, however, find herself on a few noteworthy sets in her later years like CB4, The Sinbad Show, Martin, and The Wayans Brothers. On December 10th, 1999, Hemphill would end up being found by her gardener, who saw her laying on her floor through the window. She would be pronounced dead. It was after an autopsy that it was discovered Hemphill passed because of kidney failure. She was only 52. Though they are no longer with us, each one of these actors' works are still appreciated till this day.